Picture this. It's the end of a long, incredibly demanding day. You've been navigating maps, taking back-to-back calls, streaming music on your commute, and now, yep, the dreaded red battery icon flashes on your screen. Your lifeline to the digital world is literally hanging by a thread. But when you finally walk through your front door, instead of fumbling around in the dark to plug in some frayed, tangled cable, you simply place your phone on a small, sleek charging pad on your nightstand. And within seconds, the screen lights up, it starts charging, there's no satisfying mechanical click into place, no exposed metal contacts snapping together. You just set it down, and life flows right back into your device. We kind of take this profound convenience for granted every single day, but if you stop to really think about it, it almost feels like magic. So in this explainer, we're going to guide you through what is silently happening on that nightstand, because it is a quiet technological marvel.
Think about what's actually happening here. No wires, no metal contacts, just energy flowing gracefully through empty space. Energy is seamlessly crossing an invisible gap to power your device. It is completely counterintuitive to everything we were taught about electricity, right? I mean, we learned early on that electricity demands a wire, a physical path, a closed loop to travel safely. Water needs a pipe, electricity needs a wire. But here, the energy is literally jumping through the air. It's permeating through the tough plastic, the aluminum chassis, and the reinforced glass of your phone, reaching inside and breathing life right back into your battery. It's an illusion that feels incredibly futuristic, almost like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But it's a daily miracle sitting right there on your desk.
So how do we pull off this modern magic trick? How does wireless charging actually work? That is the core mystery we're unraveling today. We're going to explore how humanity learned to build an invisible bridge for raw electrical power to cross, safely and reliably. But to truly understand the elegant science behind it, we actually have to step back in time, far back. We have to leave behind this modern era of ultra-thin glass smartphones and travel back to a world of top hats, flickering gas lamps, and the very dawn of electrical engineering. Because the secret inside your phone, well, it's older than you might think.
Section 1. A century-old discovery.
As cutting-edge as your brand-new smartphone feels, this convenience actually relies on physical principles discovered nearly 2 centuries ago. It's wild, right? Our story starts back in the 1830s with a brilliant physicist named Michael Faraday. He discovered the law of electromagnetic induction, which is the very foundation of our invisible bridge. Fast forward a bit to the late 1800s and we meet Nikola Tesla. Tesla famously experimented with wireless power, spectacularly lighting up light bulbs resting entirely in the dirt, with raw electricity arcing through the air and absolutely no wires in sight. It was pure, terrifying magic at the time. Then look at 1894. 2 French inventors actually proposed a method to power electric vehicles using this exact technology. Of course, combustion engines won that historical race. It actually wasn't until the 1970s that we finally saw a major, widespread commercial application of this physics. And you know what it was? The electric toothbrush. Why the toothbrush? Well, water and traditional plug-in electricity are a notoriously deadly combination. Engineers desperately needed a way to safely charge a device in a soaking wet bathroom without electrocuting anyone. And that specific safety need led to the aggressive refinement of the technology that now rests silently inside almost every modern smartphone on Earth.
The crucial scientific term uniting all of this history is inductive coupling. This is the foundational concept, the invisible bridge we've been talking about. Basically, inductive coupling is the transfer of energy through fluctuating magnetic fields. It makes it possible to move electricity over short distances without dangerous, wet, or messy wires. To understand this without getting bogged down in complex math, think of it like a pair of tuning forks. If you strike one tuning fork, it physically vibrates, creating sound waves that ripple outward through the air. If those invisible waves hit another tuning fork of the exact same frequency nearby, that second fork will magically begin to resonate and vibrate all on its own. Energy is beautifully transferred without the two objects ever touching. Inductive coupling does something remarkably similar, but instead of sound waves, it utilizes invisible magnetic waves to push and pull electrons across a completely empty void. It is a symphony of physics. Let's see exactly how this works step by step inside your devices.
Section 2. Building the invisible bridge.
Imagine for a moment that we have X-ray vision. We're looking right through the glass casing of your phone and right through the dense plastic shell of your charger. Inside your charging pad rests a tightly wound coil of copper wire. This is the transmitter coil. Step 1 begins the moment electricity from your wall outlet surges into this transmitter coil. Step 2. This isn't just a steady, flat stream of electricity. It's alternating current. The electrical charge rapidly and violently switches direction, sloshing back and forth incredibly fast.
As this current sloshes, it generates a circular magnetic field that pulses and fluctuates, extending outward into the air above the pad, like a glowing invisible aura of raw potential. Moving on to step 3, you place your phone, which happens to have its very own perfectly matched receiver coil, right inside that glowing aura. And step 4 is where Faraday's ancient magic finally happens. That fiercely fluctuating magnetic field from the pad washes over the copper coil buried inside your phone. Because the magnetic field is constantly swelling and changing, it physically grabs the electrons inside the phone's coil, forcing them to violently move in tandem. And moving electrons? Well, that is the very definition of an electric current. We have successfully beamed real, usable energy across an empty physical gap. But hold on. There is one final, critically important step before your phone is actually fueled up and ready to go. You see, the raw electricity we just induced inside the phone's receiver coil is alternating current, that same chaotic, sloshing back and forth energy. If we fed that wild electrical storm directly into your phone's delicate battery, it would be pure chaos. It could literally destroy the device. Batteries simply do not store alternating current. They require direct current, or DC, which is a smooth, calm, one-way river of energy. So the phone's internal microcircuitry steps in and acts like a highly efficient traffic cop. It captures that wild alternating current and elegantly rectifies it. It flattens out the chaotic waves, smoothing the energy into a perfectly flat, safe and steady direct current. Only then, once the energy is tamed, is it carefully fed into the complex chemical cells of your lithium-ion battery, safely storing that magical, invisible energy for you to use. However, as incredible as this invisible bridge is, building it in the real world isn't flawless.
Section 3, the catch, heat and alignment.
When it comes to the strict laws of physics, there is truly no such thing as a free lunch. Transitioning energy from a copper wire, transforming it into an invisible magnetic field, and then forcing it back into another wire comes with some very notable trade-offs. Let's compare wired charging directly against wireless charging to see the thermodynamic reality here. When you plug a standard cable into your phone, it's a highly efficient, direct copper-to-copper physical connection. The electrons just flow right in with very little resistance. Wireless charging, on the other hand, is inherently less efficient. Because we're broadcasting a magnetic field outward in all directions like a glowing orb, not all of that magnetic field is perfectly captured by the phone's receiver coil. Some of that field just escapes into the surrounding room. Because of this inherent inefficiency, wireless charging typically takes about 15% longer to charge your phone than a direct wired connection. But more importantly, that escaped, uncaptured energy doesn't just vanish into thin air. The unyielding laws of thermodynamics tell us it has to turn into something else. In this case, that lost energy turns directly into waste heat.
To put a hard, sobering number on that inefficiency, I want to highlight a fascinating 2020 analysis. Independent researchers rigorously tested a modern smartphone and found that using a wireless charging stand consumed 39% more total energy to go from a 0 to 100% battery compared to just using a traditional plug-in wire. 39%. Now, while you personally might not notice that extra drain on your residential electric bill, pause for a second and multiply that by the billions of smartphone users worldwide. That is a massive, staggering amount of wasted energy globally. A real environmental cost for our magical convenience. And as we just established, most of that 39% simply escapes as heat. If you've ever picked your phone up off a wireless charging pad in the morning and noticed it feels surprisingly hot to the touch, well, that is exactly what you're feeling. Pure wasted energy radiating right into your hand. And over a span of years, that constant daily exposure to excess waste heat can silently degrade the chemical longevity and maximum capacity of your battery.
And user error unfortunately amplifies this heating issue tremendously. Physical alignment is absolutely critical to this entire delicate process. For the invisible bridge to work at peak efficiency, the transmitter coil hidden in the pad and the receiver coil buried in the phone need to be practically kissing, perfectly centered over one another. A physical misalignment of just over 3 centimeters can severely shatter the power transfer. In that same 2020 study, when the phone was lazily misaligned on a generic charging pad, total energy consumption spiked by up to 80%. Your charger suddenly starts working overtime, desperately pumping out more and more magnetic energy, effectively shouting into the void trying to reach the phone's receiver coil and generating vast amounts of damaging heat in the process. It's exactly why modern tech giants are now embedding strong circular magnets around the coils, like we see with Apple's MagSafe or the newer Qi 2 standards. These magnets physically snap the phone into the absolute perfect, mathematically precise alignment every single time, physically closing the gap, stopping the guesswork, and maximizing thermal efficiency. But with so many different devices out there, how do they all miraculously communicate without causing a disaster?
Section 4,
The universal language, qi.
With all these incredibly complex, glowing magnetic fields, precise frequencies, and strict alignment issues, you might be wondering, how is it miraculously possible that an iPhone, a Samsung Galaxy, and a completely different brand of wireless earbuds can all be casually tossed onto the exact same wooden charging pad built into a coffee shop table and just work flawlessly? The answer is the Qi standard, pronounced qi, derived beautifully from the Asian concept of vital life energy. This invisible standard is the unsung hero of the modern wireless charging revolution. Before Qi became globally ubiquitous, chargers were entirely proprietary. It was a fragmented, deeply frustrating consumer mess. The Qi standard acts as a universal diplomatic language. It strictly dictates the exact frequencies, usually resting somewhere between 87 and 205 kilohertz, and the sophisticated communication protocols that all these devices must use. When you place a Qi-compatible phone on a Qi-compatible pad, they actually speak to each other in milliseconds. The phone digitally whispers to the pad, "Hey, I am here, I am a phone, my battery is at 50%, and I need exactly this specific amount of power." And perhaps even more importantly, if a rogue metal object, like a heavy set of house keys or a stray paperclip, is accidentally placed on the magnetic pad, the Qi standard's vigilant safety protocols recognize that the object isn't speaking the correct digital language. The pad immediately refuses to send power, brilliantly preventing the metal from absorbing the magnetic field, superheating, and starting a catastrophic fire. It is seamless, interoperable engineering at its absolute finest. We've mastered this on a small scale, but what happens when we think bigger?
Section 5. Powering the future. As we look out toward the horizon of human innovation, the fundamental principles of inductive coupling are being scaled incredibly up and shrunk unimaginably down in ways that are going to fundamentally reshape our physical world. Let's explore 3 incredible frontiers of next-generation applications. First, the microscale. Subdermal medical implants. Imagine tiny life-saving neurostimulators or sophisticated pacemakers that never require incredibly invasive, dangerous surgery just to replace a dying internal battery. By printing ultra-thin, flexible antennas, we can safely beam power straight through human tissue, completely eliminating the terrifying risk of severe infection from wires protruding through the skin. Second, the macroscale. High-power stationary electric vehicle charging. Imagine effortlessly pulling your heavy electric SUV into a parking spot and simply walking away to shop, while an 11-kilowatt heavy-duty inductive pad embedded deep beneath the concrete wirelessly and visibly fills your car's massive battery. And finally, the holy grail of modern transportation, dynamic EV charging. Brilliant engineers all around the globe are right now actively testing and standardizing fully electrified roads. They are embedding massive heavy-duty inductive coils directly into the highway asphalt itself. Just imagine driving a car cross-country on a road that is literally alive with magnetic energy. As you drive your electric car or heavy transit bus at full highway speeds, it seamlessly captures raw energy on the fly from the road beneath you, essentially granting you infinite driving range without ever needing to pull over, stop, and plug in. We are taking that invisible, microscopic bridge from your nightstand, and we're paving the highways of tomorrow with it. We've journeyed all the way from the modern daily frustrations of a dying cell phone battery through the almost magical illusion of wireless power, diving deep into the intricate mechanics of fluctuating magnetic fields, and all the way out to the electrified, infinite-range highways of the future. The beautiful science of inductive coupling shows us that the most profound technological leaps in our society aren't always about creating something entirely new from scratch. Sometimes, they're simply about harnessing the hidden, invisible forces of nature that have always existed silently around us. I'll leave you with this final resonant thought. Every time you place your phone on a charging pad, you're using an invisible technology born from an idea discovered nearly 2 centuries ago. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking for the magic in the everyday.